pense qu'on va commencer. So we are going to start. Thank you very much for coming to this talk or discussion about ethics. I'm Boris Baldassari, so I've been working as a software engineer for a couple of years now, and as most of us, I often wondered about what we do. Is it cool or not? Is it right or wrong? Could we do it better? So I ended up looking for references, examples, and some material about that. And this talk is merely the results of this research that I want to share with you. So there is no special goal to this talk. I don't want to convince you of anything, but if a couple of discussions can start after that, well, that's the goal, if there should be one. So we'll quickly go through the reasons we have to care about ethics in software. So is it really important? What can we do for that? We'll see a couple of references, examples, both in history, old history and more recent history, and see what's going on now with the code of conduct, code of ethics in the modern landscape. Then we'll see a couple of use cases because words, well, it's okay, we can discuss that and so on, but the thing is, it's not that easy to decide sometimes, so a couple of use cases will show us in what situations we might have to make difficult choices. And we'll finally conclude about what we can do. So, is it really important to talk about ethics in software? Well, spoiler alert, the answer is yes, of course. For many reasons. First one is software is everywhere. Software eats the world, we know that. Of course, it's true for us software practitioners. Whoa. Come back. Okay, thank you. So of course it's true for us software practitioners because we use a lot of software services, tools, products. So of course there is software everywhere for us, around us. But it's also true for people who do not use their computer much. They sometimes buy something online or they send a couple of emails and so on. Well, that's true for them too, because every time they do that, their browsing is controlled. Everything they do is tracked somewhere. So they're impacted, and even computers, people who do not use computers or phones at all are subject to software, because when they go to a shop and buy something, well, I'm quite sure there is software in the line between the factory and the delivery and so on. So really, everybody is impacted by software nowadays. And not only people, actually, because the nature, the environment is impacted too. If we build a software and we are not really efficient in the way, in the algorithms and so on, then we use more resources than what we should do, and that's a concern too. So yes, software is important for everybody and even for the Earth. The thing with technology is that it's a double-edged sword. Software makes us fly, and software makes the planes crash sometimes. Software makes our lives longer and better, and sometimes kills us trying to do so. So there are a couple of good examples of that. And there are millions of examples about that. So we really have to be careful about not only what software brings to us, but also what is the cost, what are the risks of using software. The second thing is that we, as experts, have kind of a duty to people who do not know much about software. Of course, not everybody understands software or the consequences or what is data, what importance the data have, and sometimes people do not even know that their data is somewhere in the cloud or whatever. So these people kind of need advice, and we do it in our personal and professional lives, I guess. We answer to people, we advise them about doing things, because the thing is that we, as hackers and software practitioners, we know software. We know the limits of software, the risk of software, the consequences of good or bad software, and it's kind of our duty to help people with that, or or advise them. And last but not least, we can act on software because we develop software, we maintain software, we propose services. So the people who make the software part of our lives is us. And the thing is, with great power comes great responsibility. A few years ago, the hackers and software practitioners were not that famous, or we were kind of a bit on the limits of the society, kind of. Now with the knowledge we have, we really have a lot of power, and we should use that power to do good, I guess. And the last thing is that, well, doing software is a political act, because so first, what is politics? Politics, according to Wikipedia, is the study of the relationship, the relative distribution, of power, authority, and privileges in human societies. Of course, software changes that. Software changes the way the money is made, the power is distributed. It gives power to the people sometimes, and sometimes it's used to counterfeit the reality and things like that. So, of course, doing software is a political act. Technology is not neutral. Every time we build software, we maintain software, or we run software in DevOps or whatever, we make choices. These choices have consequences, and we should be aware of them. So, yes, software is important. Talking about ethics in software is important, and what we do is important. So let's have a look at the ethics in history, generally speaking, and specifically for the world of software. A couple of definitions first, because we talk about ethics. It's not self-evident. The definition is not self-evident. So Wikipedia says that ethics is the study of values and customs of a person or a group. Well, yes, true. That doesn't bring much light on our problem. I really like the second one, which is ethics helps understanding the difference between what we call right and wrong in a given situation and how to apply it. And that's probably the best answer to or definition for our case, because we can have our own opinion on this, but it's good to share it. It's good to know the consequences and so on. Discuss together to maybe highlight some points we have not seen and so on. And very basically stated, the ethics, so this major branch of philosophy, is the philosophy on how to act. So if we want to do good or to be bad, we can do that too. Well, we have to think about ethics, about the best way to do it, good or bad. Just for the records, there are a couple of mainstream differences in the field of ethics. I selected three which will help us understand how we can think about that. The first one is consequentialism, which says that if you do some action and the consequences are good, well, you're okay. Even if the actions you did are not really good, if the consequences are, you're okay. The second one is deontology, which is kind of the opposite. If you do good actions, whatever the consequences are, you're okay. Why not? And the last one is virtue, which says that if you are a good person, then everything you will do will be good. Well, in my opinion, none of them is complete or really applies to our world of software, but they give some good insights about how we can handle the reflection about that. Well, of course, ethics is not a new thing. Isaac Asimov, 65 years ago, something like that, wrote a couple of books, and we all know the 3 rules of robotics. The basic thing being that a human being should never be harmed by a robot. So there are a few variations. Well, we know that. I just want to stress the fact that we have done little regarding robotics, well, compared to what Isaac Asimov has written about robots. But the little we have done, we have already massively failed these 3 rules. So they're not really good. And in the future, especially on artificial intelligence and things like that, we might better remember that these few rules and try to apply them even if we failed until now. Another good reference for ethics, and especially in the open source communities, are the 4 rules of free software. Freedom to run the program as you wished for any purpose, to study how the program works, to redistribute copies, and so you can help your neighbor and redistribute copies of your modified version of the program. We all know that access to the source code is a precondition for this. It's quite common in our, well, once again, open source communities. But one thing I sometimes hear from people when I discuss about ethics, they say, well, I've written a piece of software and I don't want military use, so I don't want military companies and so on to use that piece of software. Well, you just can't do that if you're doing free software. So that's one of the kind of drawbacks of doing free software. You don't know who will use it and how. Another thing that so this is the first generation of hackers. The rules have a bit changed according to Wikipedia with the second generation of hackers. It has been formalized by Stephen Levy. It was quite a while ago. Even if there is nothing written down about ethics, there was ethics in the years, and there was kind of a common understanding about what ethics are. These rules are especially targeted at the freedom of people, access to computers, with computers being ways to change the distribution of power, so politics. Information should be free, mistrust authority. So that was, nowadays that would be difficult to say that things have evolved, but don't judge people on their degrees, age, race, position, whatever, judge them on their skill. So the meritocracy is something really important for us in open source community. You can find it in almost all big communities. And there is a flow in the meritocracy thing. There are a couple of wikis that talk about that. The thing is that with meritocracy, sometimes a big contributor of a project, because he is a big contributor, sometimes we allow him to have a bad behavior just because he is a big contributor. And that happens actually quite often. There are a couple of well-known examples with people being harsh or having an unethical behavior just because they have a massive position and they contribute a lot. I won't give any name, but we know a couple of them. So the meritocracy thing is not that nice, actually. So what is happening today? Today we have a lot of code of ethics, code of conduct everywhere on the web. Every big organization or every organization, company, state, everybody has a code of ethics. So code of ethics is for business and decision making, whereas code of conduct is for behavior and actions and words we have in the community. Most companies and associations and entities have either a code of conduct or a code of ethics, sometimes both. And there are even companies which have a variety of different codes, one for the employees, one for the customers, one for the providers, subcontractors, and so on. And we know quite well that even if they have these codes, and a plethora of them, well, sometimes they still behave unethically. So it doesn't solve everything, having a code of conduct. But it helps. It helps because when you have a problem with someone and you think the behavior is unethical, well, you have something to refer to and say, you cannot do that because we have a code of conduct and we are supposed to follow it. So it lays down the foundation for some argumentation. We can use the same words to discuss that. So having a code of conduct or a code of ethics is really the first thing we should do when we want to talk about ethics. But as I said before, it's not enough, it's not sufficient. We need a code of ethics or a code of conduct, and then we need to enforce it. We need to, when we see something that is not ethical according to our beliefs or to the association or entity's belief or to the code of conduct, we have to report it, we have to help manage it, and there are so many things that cannot be written but are implicit, that we really need a common concern about that. It should be noted that some professions have a code of professional practice or a code of deontology. The most famous one being the Hippocrates Oath in the medicine. There are a couple, if you look on the internet for code of deontology, there are a couple of professions which have a common code of ethics. And then every time that you have a company or that you pretend to be part of this community, you automatically have to adhere to by the code of conduct. We don't have a code of conduct or, excuse me, a code of professional practice for software, as you know. In open source communities, well, it's a long story of discussing the ethics, meritocracy, and so on. Since the first communities, it was not written down at the beginning, but it was, as soon as the beginning, it was a common concern to treat people correctly, to behave correctly, to do good. And as a result, nowadays, all major forges have a code of conduct. They enforce it. If on the mailing list someone has a bad word or is harsh, well, usually within a couple of hours, there are dozens of emails saying, okay, you should not do that, you should not say that, remember the code of ethics. So it's quite a good thing. There is one notable exception. I could not find the code of ethics for the GitHub forge. They had one, but it's obsolete now. So, but every other big forge, OpenStack, Apache, Eclipse, of course, we have code of conduct and we enforce it. Every person, all the people involved in the community enforce it usually. So that's really good. Another thing that happens is that there exist procedures to report cases of abuse or harassment or whatever, and there are even ways to escalate the case. So, say in a project, you have someone who has an unethical behavior, and so you see that, and you go. So you say to the guy, you should not do that. The guy says, "Fuck you." Okay, you go to the project leader, and the guy says, yeah, but it's meritocracy, this guy does a lot, I won't do anything. Okay, then you can go to the foundation board, or usually there are people whose role is to do that, so they are clearly identified on the website. You can contact them either directly or through a mailing list or whatever, and they will do things. And usually, at that level of the organization, even if the project leader is not happy with it, they will enforce it for you. And that's just fair. That's what we should do. Well, generally speaking, there is a strong emphasis on respect, diversity, and fairness. So it might be maybe not complete, because as I said before, everything is not written down, and we cannot write everything down. But there are strong fundamentals to apply ethics in these situations, in these communities. What about Eclipse? Ethics at Eclipse. There are three main words, the keywords that we use and see a lot within Eclipse: transparency, openness, and meritocracy. So meritocracy, I've talked about already. Transparency is really important because transparency, of course, gives visibility to people. So who is in power, who decides what they can do or not. but it's also the best way to fight corruption. So at Eclipse, we do not have much this problem, as far as I know. But generally speaking, transparency is a very strong fundamental of ethics in organizations, whatever they are. One very strong thing at Eclipse is the IP policy, which is really, really, really strict. It's 100% and nothing less. Clean code when you want to provide code to the foundation and start a project, you really need a 100% IP clean code. And it's not only for liars, it's also about fairness. So you don't steal the code from someone else doesn't steal your code, and everything is clear. That's a big part of ethics too. Another very strong point within Eclipse is the governance model. So transparency, so we know the board, we know every people in the kind of hierarchy. We can talk to them, they are often present in the mailing list, they are present at the various events. If you have a problem, because, well, let's say you have been harassed within Eclipse and you try to talk to people and nobody listens to you, well, you can go see the board members to talk to them about that. So as for the governance, it works quite well within Eclipse. And actually, it's not a surprise because Eclipse is a bit different from the other forges like Apache and so on. There is a strong industrial presence that's part of Eclipse, really. And so the governance model is really important because we need to stay independent, especially compared to the various big companies that come and provide code and so on. And just for the records, Mike Milikovic, the director of the Eclipse Foundation, or CEO, gives talks about governance. So it's a real job to do the correct governance, to use the correct governance model. There are a number of pitfalls on the way. So there is a strong work, a strong effort on the independence and the transparency of the governance, which is, once again, a big part of ethics. Apart from the structural policies, there are many, many initiatives from members with diversity groups, with demo camps, with a real effort to talk to various communities. Diversity is something really strong within Eclipse, as you may know. Diversity is about gender, but not only. It's about cultural differences. It's about disabilities. It's about, well, everything that makes us all different. And they even have talks about ethics, and this talk has been selected as an early bird talk. So it's the first time, I guess, I see a talk about ethics being selected as an early bird in a conference. So congrats to them. Thank you. Thank you, Eclipse. And there is also a lot of things happening about what the foundation should do about diversity, about ethics, and so on. Of course, it's open, and you can follow them on the Mattermost server. If you don't know the Mattermost server yet, you should. And there is a channel on diversity, so you're welcome to join and communicate and so on. Oops. Yeah. So now let's have a couple of use cases, because the thing is, between the things I know I will never do, something like if someone tells me to take a hammer and kill my neighbor, I will never do that. There are things we know we do because we are okay with that. We find them fair and so on. The thing is, there is a gray zone between these two stances, and shits happen in this gray zone. So seeing a couple of use cases helps us prepare ourselves to face the decision we might need to make one of those days, and hopefully make the right decision. Okay, what about whistleblowers? The thing is, it's quite difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on him not understanding it. That's from Upton Sinclair, and that's where being a whistleblower is something really hard. It requires a lot of courage, I guess, because, well, you work there, they give you money, you have a family to feed, and then you maybe decide to do something that will get you fired, and not only fired, but you will probably have trouble finding a new job after that. So it requires a lot of courage, because loyalty is important, but sometimes there are things that make us uncomfortable, and conscience is even more important. So it requires courage, and it also requires preparation. So hence this talk, hence the discussions we should have about ethics, because when that happens, when that kind of decision comes to us, we must be ready. And discussing with people about ethics and whistleblowers and so on, I had a report from people who had a job interview in the UK recently, a couple of months ago. And actually there was a question in the job interview saying something like, are you a whistleblower? So if you see something that you think is really bad, what will you do? Will you tell the world about it? And the very surprising thing is that the employer expected the people to say, yes, I will. So I will be a whistleblower. Well, that's the first time ever I hear about that, and that's great. It shows a change in the mindset of people, and that's really great. Whistleblowers have changed that for us. They have introduced transparency, and they have introduced the fact that if you behave badly, you can get cocked, even from within. So it changes a lot about what people think they can do without people knowing it. Once again, it's all about transparency against corruption. Okay, killer robots. Asimov, once again. So killer robots, what we call killer robots, are self-triggering weapons. So the machine, the software, decides to kill, to shoot someone, and given the precision and the size of the bullets, usually it means killing someone when the weapon decides to do so. The thing is that not so long ago, you had to have a human in the loop. So the robot says, hey, I have someone there, should I shoot him? And the human had to say, yes, do so. Now it's not the case anymore. Actually, killer robots already exist. There are two big companies that do them, Samsung and Dodam, the most advanced being Dodam. They are both from South Korea, interesting. And these killer robots are, so they are not only sold, but they are already deployed, not only in Korea, but in other parts of the world. And one interesting thing is that, so there is an interview on YouTube of the guy, the salesman for these robots. And he says, actually, we are ready to do self-triggering weapons. I mean, the software decides, I shoot this guy now. He says, we can do that, but it's an option, and until now, nobody wanted this option. So the customers buy the robots can track people and shoot at will and so on, but there is still a human in the loop. So the seller proposes the option to automatically kill people, and the customers, until now, they say no. That's interesting. Just to widen the scope, anti-personnel mines are a kind of self-triggering weapon, but the fact is they are forbidden by the Geneva Convention. That doesn't mean that we cannot buy anti-personnel mines, of course, but it reduces the amount of mines that we find on the market and that we find in the ground at the end. So, and of course, killer robots are not forbidden by the Geneva Convention, not yet. Just another thing on this item. Actually, the European Union is working on that because, as for now, there is no regulation about that. And I've found a paper 3 months ago on the European Union website discussing this subject and basically saying that we don't need a human in the loop. I cannot find the paper anymore, so I can find no information anymore about on the website, on the EU website as of today. But well, you have to know that they are thinking about that, and they are about to accept and to authorize self-triggering weapons in Europe. So it's on the way. I don't know what we can do about that, because if someone, and if a crazy man has self-triggering weapons, maybe it's fair for us to have some too. I don't know about that. So maybe we should have a kill switch inside, maybe not. Or should there be an international ban? Difficult to say. Just one more remark on the kill switch thing. When you build a killer robot, you usually don't want a kill switch, because then your enemy might disable the robot. But if the robot kills your own soldiers, then you want to kill it, so you need a kill switch. And one important thing, one surprising thing, is that a couple of weeks ago we had the ransomware attack, one of the biggest virus attack in history. And the first wave of the virus has been stopped because of a kill switch. The second wave of the virus didn't have the kill switch, but we were prepared. So the kill switch in the first version of the virus, I mean, really helped us, because the impact would have been far bigger on our industry and so on. It would probably have killed more people just because the guy did code a kill switch in his virus. So that's very interesting, because of this kill switch, he didn't get the money he wanted. Well, another use case is the Dieselgate. So you probably have heard of that. The thing is about in cars you have a lot of software, of course, and the software was created to falsify the results when it's in a lab. So you think that your car is environmental friendly, and it's only 1 milligram emissions, and actually it's 10 times more. So that happened 2 years ago with Volkswagen, and then the French company, automotive company, did that too. So we realized that they were doing that too. Same is happening right now in the US. So everybody does it, actually. And the thing is, now we realize that everybody knew about it. The European Union knew about it, the people there knew about it, the state knew about it, the company knew about it. Actually, the only people who didn't know about it was us. And well, in France it's especially bad, because we had an inquiry, and so there was a commission and so on. And at the end, the commission, so the official commission, said, "Oh, we could not check the source code, but we think it's okay." So if you could not check the source code, why do you think it's okay? And then the answer is, well, you know, we should not impede our own industry. And the person who said that was not the Minister of Industry. She was the Minister of Environment. So we have a lot of work on this one, eh? So it's a big institutionalized lie. Meanwhile, 3 million people a year die from outdoor air pollution. That's the official number from the International Health Organization. And the thing is, in that case, even whistleblowers were not heard, at least in France. There were a couple of articles in the press and so on, and just nobody heard them. Nobody talked about that, and there was kind of a omerta on this topic. Because if you say something, you're not patriotic, you want your own industry and our own employment rate to go down and so on. Meanwhile, 3 million people die a year because of that. So, okay. So then, conclusion, what about us? The best thing we can do, I guess, is just to try to know ourselves a bit better and try to anticipate, prepare ourselves in that kind of situations. As I said before, between what we know we would do because we think it's okay and what we know we would never do, there is a big gray zone. And the thing is, shits happen in this gray zone. The devil lies in this gray zone. And actually, so in this gray zone, at some point in time, we have a case where we have to make a decision. Usually, in that case, we have to make the decision quite quickly. So we do not have much time to think about it, and we focus, I guess, on the I need my money, I need my job, and things like that. So that's where the shits happen. And I guess the best thing we can do is just try to reduce this gray zone. Prepare ourselves to anticipate difficult situations, decisions that we could make or not. And then, so we can't prepare everything, but if you think about it beforehand, well, you have better chance to make the right decision when that comes. Okay, what's next? I think we should ask ourselves about this gray zone. So what is our gray zone in our personal case? Well, in my case, I never developed a weapon, but I provided tools to develop dozens of them, probably. So is that okay with what I think? And I mean, doing the self-inquiry and trying to think about what you have done and what you would not do anymore probably helps reduce this gray zone. And last thing, so as I said before, there is no manifesto or no code of conduct generally accepted within the field of software. If we were to write one, what would it be? What do you think about that? Thank you. All the references from the talk, including the killer robots, everything, every number I've said, you can find them on the ethical software. I'm still updating the website, but in a couple of days, everything will be on this. It's quite big already, and you can get the slides if you like on the same website at this URL. Any question, remarks, experience reports?
Just to emphasize the interest of community over focus. On the slide, on the slide part of the talk, not but and on the slides about how Apache, Eclipse, and OpenStack have the conducts when GitHub doesn't necessarily have one. You use the word forge, and I think that's where there may be a distinction to make between a forge, which is just the technical part, and really a community, as the Eclipse community is, where we do want collectively to have some ethics and so on. And I think this really emphasizes the value of a community which agrees on bylaws, which agrees to set up a foundation to support those values. So yeah, and in my opinion, that makes the big difference between being an Eclipse project and being on GitHub. On Eclipse, you have some guarantee of ethics that you don't have on GitHub.
Yeah, right. That is a good
sales point for the foundation people.
That's a really good point, indeed. So thank you for saying that. Well, but the thing is that GitHub is not only a forge. It's a forge, but many projects nowadays go to GitHub because it's easy. You don't have to go through a process and so on. So in the end, even if it was not the first goal, actually now there are communities in GitHub. But that's a very good point. Yeah. Right.
Where's the line between ethics and good manners? So sometimes, in your examples, you talked about very big ethical ideas. And that's obviously ethics. You also touched on some when people are bad to each other in open source projects, or maybe they're abusive or something like that. And that's bad manners, but it might be that they're helping each other because there's some bad code and trying to, they're having bad manners, but actually they're ethically trying to get that code to a better state. But how do you define that line? How do you stop branding people who are rude unethical?
Well, if you ask me, so I think it depends on people. If you ask me, I would say that good manners are definitely a part of the code of conduct. And actually, in most code of conduct, you have something about bad manners. So it depends what we call bad manners, because we can have cultural differences. But that's the point of having a code of conduct, because you state the common ground for everybody to communicate on that. I think we need to be tolerant also, and so it depends. If the guy, someone has a bad behavior that you consider being bad manners, and you tell him, if the guy says, "Oh, I'm sorry, in my culture it's okay that way, but I'm sorry, I won't do that again," it's okay. And if the guy says, "Well, fuck you, you're on the other side," so I guess the communication with the guy and how things evolve after that makes the difference, actually. Any other question or remark or comments? Oh, yeah, please.
So the killer robots have been deployed defending nuclear weapons, and they can't be bribed. Just an idea.
Yeah, right. No, there may be good reasons to have killer robots. If your enemy has some, maybe you want some, and they can be bribed. Yeah.
Just an idea there, but
Yeah.
it's not clear, right?
No, it's not all black and white. Definitely not. So yeah, the main thing we can do about that is not forbidding them, but just talk about that, so we have a better understanding of the consequences and so on. And well, saying that helps also understanding the consequences. So we just need to discuss it and have a better understanding of it. Yeah, and maybe forbid them after these thoughts and discussion. But what we need now is really discussing. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a good day.